Today I'm going to teach you how to do odd count peyote. And we're going to do this little pair of earrings because, as I promised in the beginning, I would always include a project as I teach you basic stitches. And this is the project I've made for my odd count peyote. With odd count peyote, you can do nice little geometric patterns, and with this, and you can center things well. With even count, you can't center things very well, as far as having exact beads, an exact dead center bead. It just doesn't work that way. This way it does. So I am going to show you how to make these earrings. Of course, you do not have to make these earrings. You can learn the stitch and you can just use basic colors instead of following the color pattern I'm going to show you, and just learn the odd count peyote stitch from this video also. Let's go ahead and look and see what we need to make this project today. Okay, so what you're going to need for this project, I'm using 8-pound Fireline, and I'm going to use about a wingspan to start each earring, just to make sure I have plenty. And a wingspan is when you put your arms straight out side to side and measure from fingertip across the length of your arm, across the length of your chest, across the length of the other arm, and to your fingertips. So you'll want to thread onto a size 10 or 12 beading needle one wingspan. And I'm using the smoke color since I'm using black beads. And then you'll need 2 ear wires if you're going to make the earrings. If you're just going to learn the stitch, then you won't need all this stuff. Now I'm going to use 3 colors of 8-0 seed beads. These are all Toho and they're all round seed beads. I could use Delicas to do this. Delicas work out perfect in peyote. They're better in peyote actually, except for the fact that I only have little tiny Delicas. I don't have bigger ones. And to learn and teach a stitch, it's easier to use a little bit bigger beads. So I'm using 8-0 Tohos, and I'm using a opaque turquoise, an opaque black, and this one is a matte silver permanent finish. And I'm also going to use some 11-0s in the matte silver color. So go ahead and thread your needle and let's get started. To start this project, I'm going to pick up an 8-0 seed bead that doesn't match my other 8-0 seed beads that I'm going to use in my project, or you can use any bead you'd like actually, as long as it's different so that you can tell the difference between your pattern and your stop bead. Pull this bead to the end of your thread. You don't have to leave a long tail, just enough to hold on to basically, and then come back up through your stop bead and pull the thread down to loop around the bead and create a stop bead so that your beads do not fall off while you create your pattern. Now we're going to do odd count peyote, so I'm going to pick up 3 of one color, 1 of a second color, and 3 of the first color I picked up. 7 beads is what I'm using. I'm going to bring this down to the end of my thread. Now of course, if you don't want to do the pattern I'm doing, you don't have to do the same color scheme. If you do want to do the pattern I'm doing and end up with the project that I'm going to show you, then follow the color scheming. You don't have to use the same colors, but follow as I change when I change colors. Now I've got 7 beads. I'm going to butt them up against my stop bead and hold the first beads very tightly between my fingers. Let's get a little closer. I'm just holding them in place. And then I'm going to pick up my first color, which is my black, and I am going to skip over the first one between my fingers and go into the second bead between my fingers and just the second bead. And I'm going to pull my thread down, and as I guide it, I'll squeeze my beads, and that will just pop that bead right on top, just like so. Then I'm going to continue supporting my beads, and I'm going to skip the next bead and go into the bead after that, which happens to be my turquoise bead. I'm going to pick up a turquoise bead, and I'm going to go into the next turquoise bead. So I'm just coming out of one, skipping one, going into the next one. I'm going to pull my thread through and pop that down. I just hold my beads until I get my first row done, just to keep them secure. And then I'm going to pick up another turquoise bead. I'm coming out of this turquoise bead. I'm going to skip over the next black bead behind the turquoise bead on my project and pull my new turquoise bead down. Like so. Now, we come to the end of the project here, at the very end of our row, and with odd count peyote, you can't just turn around and come back. You have to place a bead and turn your thread around in a particular manner. So what we're going to do is we're coming out of this last black bead here. We have no place to place this one. So what we're going to do is we're going to pick up a black bead, and then we're going to go from the back side of our project down 3 beads. On my project, it happens to be the first 3 black beads. So I'm going to go down through those, and I am going to pull my needle through and bring down the bead that I am adding. I'm just going to try to avoid my stop bead here and bring this down to where it lays on top of my very last bead in my row. Now I'm coming out of this 3rd black bead on the top of my piece here. I'm going to go up through this turquoise bead and pull. Then I'm going to go up through these 2 black beads again, right here. You can grab all 3 of these beads at once, go through the turquoise and the 2 black if you'd like. I'm going to place my thumb over it and pull my thread through just so it comes out nice and neat. Now I can come down through this top bead. The first row is the toughest one with the method I'm going to show you. After that, it becomes pretty easy. Now we can go all the way down this row, and we're going to go ahead and do that. We're going to place a bead between the sticking up beads. So I'm going to pick up my black bead, go into the next turquoise bead. Now I'm making a flower, so, excuse me guys, sorry about that. I'm making a flower, so I want the middle of my flower to be a different color. So now I'm going to pick up one of my silver beads, and I'm going to go in between the turquoise beads and place that silver bead right in the center there. And then I'm going to pick up another black bead and go through the next black bead on my piece. Get my tail out of there. And now I'm going to pick up another black bead, because on this side of my peyote I can just turn around and go right back into my piece and start my next row, because I have a bead sticking up here. So as I come around, I can just go right into that bead. And then I'll pick up a turquoise bead and go into the next sticking up silver bead here and pull my thread through. And then another turquoise bead and come up through the next black bead. Now I have to turn around. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick up, I'm actually going to go through my next bead, just go through it. Then I'm going to pick up a black bead. Then I'm going to go back through this very last bead. So let's get close. So I came up through my very last bead on my row, I picked up a bead, and now I'm going back through that bead on my very last row. I'm just going to loop the bead around, and then I'm coming out of the top of this bead. I will go back down into this bead that I just added. And as I do that, I'll squeeze my fingers and I'll pull my thread, and that will secure that little bead at the very end. And now it's sticking out and I can start my next row. If you didn't get that, don't worry. We have to do that on each row as we go to the sides, so I will show you several times more. We're going to go down into this turquoise bead now, And then we're going to pick up a turquoise bead and go into the next turquoise bead. And now I have created a flower. I'm going to pick up a black bead. Coming out of the turquoise, I'm going to go into the black bead on the very last bead of my row. Now I'm going to pick up another black bead, and I can just turn myself around right here and just go right up into the next bead. I'm going to do an entire row of black through here and then another one also, just to separate my flowers and to make it look like a flower against the dark background. So I'm going to pick up a black bead and go into the next turquoise bead. And then again, pick up a black bead, go into the next black bead. Then go up into your last bead, pick up a black bead, because we have to turn around now, we have to connect this bead. So we're just going to go back into the bead we just went into, right here. I'm going to go right back into it. And then go back into the bead that we just added. So we're coming out of the bead on the piece. We're going to go down into the bead we just added. Put your fingers over it, squeeze it, and pull your thread tight. And that will secure that bead nice and tight and neat. And then come back down. So it's basically a square stitch or a ladder stitch, whichever you want to consider it. You're just connecting it to the bead in front. This is much easier than the traditional way of sewing up 3, turning around, sewing down 3. It's just much easier. You only have to do the traditional one on the first row. Now we can just slide back down and do another row of black. This is the way I've always done my odd count, because I used to do it the traditional way because that's the way I learned. But then as I got more advanced, I just figured out that I didn't have to go through all that and started just connecting the last bead to the last bead. And I think it's the easiest way to do it. Now I'm going to make one more row of black, so I'm just going to turn around and come back up this row with black. And I'm just going to work my way all the way to the top again. Now you can go ahead and go through both the beads if you'd like on the end here, just to skip a step. Just go through both of them, pick up a black bead, and go back through the bead you're exiting from on the opposite side, and pull. And then go back through the bead you just added through the top here. Hold on to your beads, squeeze them, and pull tight with your thread. And that anchors that bead there nicely. I'm going to move back down, and now I'm going to make another flower. So right in the center here, between these two black beads, I'm going to pick up a silver bead because I want to change my order of color here. So I'm going to pick up a silver and then a black bead. Turn myself around, pick up a black bead. Pick up a silver bead, or excuse me, yes, a silver bead, and go through the silver bead. Then another silver bead, and go through the two last beads on my piece. Pick up a black bead, and go through the opposite side of the last bead from which I'm coming out. Pull this bead down, go back through the top of it, through this side, squeeze my piece and pull my thread. Now I'm going to pick up a black bead, go into my silver bead, and then I'm going to pick up a turquoise bead and go through the next silver bead. Black bead, and go through the last black bead. Turn myself around and just go into the next sticking up black bead with a black bead. And a silver bead, coming out of this bead, going into the turquoise bead in the center, and continuing my row by going through my last 2 beads. Then I'm going to pick up a bead, go into the opposite side from which I'm coming out, pull that bead down, go back into it from the top side, and pull down. Then I'm going to go into the next silver bead. Then I am going to go into the next silver bead with a silver bead to finish my flower. And pick up a black bead. We're going to continue doing this. Make 2 rows of black, and then we will do a flower of turquoise, just like we did this flower. The same thing. Instead of doing the silver on the outside, we'll do the turquoise and then the 1 silver on the middle. So go ahead and continue. Do 2 rows of black, make your turquoise flower with the silver center, and then do 1 row of black, and we'll be back. Okay, so as you can see, I went ahead and did my 2 rows of black, and then I started my row with my first turquoise and went through, finished my flower, and then put 1 row of black, came up to the end, did my turnaround by adding my 1 bead on the end here, and now we are going to do a little end embellishment here. So what we're going to do is we are going to pick up 1 8-0 in the same color as you're using your background color, so in my case it'll be black, and then I'm going to pick up 3 11-0 seed beads, 1 8-0 in turquoise, and then 1 11-0. And I'm going to bring this down to my piece, and then I'm going to go around the 11-0 on the end, back into the 8-0, the 3 11-0s, and the black 8-0 here on my piece. Now I'm going to hold my finger over and pull my thread up through, and then now I'm coming out of this 8-0 seed bead right here. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to slide into the 8-0 seed bead on my piece right here, and I'm going to pull this up. Then I'm just going to hold it, and I'm going to pick up a black 8-0, excuse me, my thread is tangled, and 3 11-0s, a turquoise 8-0, and an 11-0. I'm going to drop these down to my piece. I'm going to hold on to them, go around the 11-0, into the turquoise 8-0, the 3 11-0s, and the black 8-0, and pull my thread up through. And then I'm going to go into the next 8-0 on my piece, right here, and pull it through. Now these are a little loose. We'll sew back through to secure them, so don't worry too much. Just make sure there's not a lot of slack where you can see a ton of thread or they're just kind of sort of dangling there. Have them on there pretty securely, the best you can at this point. And then we will do 1 more dangle. Pick up a black 8-0, 3 11-0s, a turquoise 11-0, or 8-0, excuse me, and then an 11-0. I'm going to drop this down to my piece, and I'm going to go around the 11-0, up through the 8-0 turquoise one, all 3 11-0s, and up through that black 8-0. Hold on to my piece and pull this tight. And then I will come through the last 8-0 seed bead. Now in order to secure this stitch, we're going to stitch back through, and we're just going to follow our original thread path. So we're going to, let me get you close so you can see. Sorry, I'm dangling my piece in the air here. Alright, so now we're coming out of this bead here, we're going to go into this one here, and then this one diagonal to it. And pull through. Then we'll go down here and into this one here. You can do one at a time if you want, but let me back off a little. But if you do one at a time, just make sure you go up and down, up and down. Now I'm in this turquoise one, I'm going to go into this black one and then up into this black one here, right here. And then to secure these last two here, I'm going to go into my very last bead on this row. I'm going to go into the bead right here, this one that's holding my dangle. And then I am going to go back into this bead here. So I'm just doubling that stitch, and then I'm going to pull everything tight. Then I'm going to go back into these two beads here, down into this one, and pull. And that should secure that dangle pretty well. If it does not, then you can sew back down into the dangle itself. So let's do that real quick so you can see what I'm talking about. Back out of this bead here. Before you go into that bead, you're going to go down into your dangle. Go down into all the beads. If I can get my needle to do it. There we go. Just sew through your entire dangle, go back around your 11-0, back up through these 8-0s, and through this 8-0 here. And then you can go into this bead here that we were originally going to go into. Now that makes that quite a bit more substantial. The only one that is a little bit weak and kind of funny is this one. So that's why if you need to, you can sew back through, and that's why I went ahead and showed you. Now we're going to go ahead and go up through this turquoise bead, down through this bead. Of course, you can do two at a time. I'm going to go down through that one, up through the one on top of it here. So just sew through the original thread path, come back through this one here, and now we have to sew to the top of the earring so that we can make a top of the earring. So we're just going to go, we're coming out of this bead, we're going to go into this one, and then we're going to go through the bottom of this one, and then into the side of this one, into the bottom of this one. Hopefully you can see. Let me back off a little more so my hands aren't in your way. Into this one, into this one, and we're just going to go up and down, back and forth until we get all the way to the top here. All the way till we come out of this top sticking up bead right here. At this point, I'm going to pull my stop bead off. And you can just pull it off just like I did. So we're coming through this little bead on top here. And it tends to be a little wobbly. So what I'm going to do is I'm coming out here. I'm going to go ahead and sew through the next bead. And I'm just going to follow my peyote stitch. So I'm going to go here. And this is just to secure this top row. Then I'm going to go into the next couple beads here. Up and down in your beads. Up here, down here. Follow your original path. So I can't get through two, so I'm going to go through one. And then I'm going to go through these two. Now I'm going to tie a knot with my working thread and my tail that's left here. So I'm just going to grab these and just make a loop and tie a knot. And this will secure the top here. Like so. Okay, so now we're coming out of this bead after securing our working thread with our tail thread. If you need to, you can sew through these two beads a couple of times if your end bead is not secure, because you're going to be working through this bead again. So if it's flopping around, just do a ladder stitch between these two beads. And what I mean by that is just sew down through this one, then back up through this one, and then tie another knot with your thread, and then just go ahead and come through this bead like so. Because we tied a knot, we can slide back through our bead. Then we're going to pick up an 11-0 seed bead and place it on top. Then we're going to pick up another 11-0 seed bead and place it on top. And then we're going to pick up one more and go through. Now I don't want to place another bead here, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to sew through this bead here. Let's get a little bit closer. And then through this bead, through this one, and the turquoise one next to it, down through this one, the turquoise bead, down through this one here, and then I'm going to come up through this sticking up bead right here. Now, and don't worry about if it looks funny over here, we're going to secure this again, so don't worry about it too much. Now we're going to pick up another black seed bead and go through here, and another one here. Now I want to get back over here so I can just work through these two. So what I'm going to do is I'm coming out of this bead, I'm going to go down into this one here. Make sure I'm in camera here. And then I'm going to sew into this one here, into this turquoise one here, into this one here, and then up into this one here. It just makes a round top to my little earring here. Now I'm going to go down into this one in the middle and up into this one here, because I want to be coming out the outside of my bead here. And then I'm going to pick up 3 11-0 seed beads and a turquoise 8-0. I'm going to back off so that I can stay in camera here, and we're going to pick up an ear wire. Drop that ear wire down and then just go through your 8-0 seed bead. Hold on to your beads and pull your thread through, and this will pull your ear wire down to your project. Make sure your ear wire is closed tightly, because this loop sometimes can be open and your thread will slide through. If it is open, take a pair of chain nose pliers and close it. Pick up 3 11-0 seed beads and come through the opposite side of this other bead sticking up. So we are coming out, actually, yeah, pick up 3 11-0 seed beads. We're coming out of the 8-0, and then you want to go to the outside of this bead, and you can also go through the middle bead right here. and pull this down. And I'll show you what this looks like. Just like that. Now we're going to sew back up into this black bead here. Go back up into the 3 11-0 seed beads and the 8-0 on top. Make sure you go around your ear wire, go back down into the 8-0 and the 3 11-0s. Come back into the bead we're anchoring to, like so. Now I'm going to cut my tail bead off, or my tail thread off here, and burn it down. And just roll it in. And then I'm going to sew through some beads securing things. Now you can sew up through your ear wire again if you'd like, but it's an earring. It doesn't get a whole lot of stress. You don't have to do it again. You have to do it at least twice, but you don't have to do it 3 times if you don't want to. So now I'm coming out of this bead here. I'm going to go down into this turquoise one. I'm going to go up into this black one here. Then I'm going to go into this black one here. And then into this black one here, just to pull this together better. And then I'm going to tie a knot on this thread bridge right here. So between the beads, right here, I'm just going to go underneath that thread, pull my thread through, go through the loop, and pull a knot down. Straighten it out. Then I'm going to come back up through this bead here, and I'm just going to sew through all these black beads on top, just to make sure they're nice and neat and straightened out. So up through these 3, into the middle, and here. It's going through all the top black beads. And here I'm going to tie a knot on this side. And then I will sew down a few beads just to get away from where I tied my knot. I'm just going up and down like we did to travel up to the top, and then go back down into this one here. Straighten everything out, cut off your thread, burn it down, and there you have it. A little earring. And here's a partner to him. Like so. Now, as you practice this, you can get pretty neat with it. You may come up with a different way that you want to put your ear wire on, or do the top differently, or maybe just start with a couple rows of black. However you want to do it. Play with it until you come up with something that you like, or just continue doing the odd count, making flowers all the way down, and make a bracelet out of it. However you want to do it. This is just a simple little basic project just to teach you the stitch. And I hope you enjoyed it. Bye-bye.